go ahead and look at module 6. Talk about a couple other things for a moment. Probably like y'all out early today. 6 is not that much stuff in it. And the other part is I've actually got an online meeting at 2 o'clock. So if I finish y'all a little bit early, that works well. I told them that I may not be in until after 2:15. It's after class at 2:15. But after the earlier lecture today and what I'm doing material anyway, we'll just probably put out a little early on. Is this chapter, module, whatever it is, doesn't have as much stuff in it as some of the modules. So there's less now. So where we're going to go to from today is I'm going to talk about the first item. It's only got 3 sections in it. I'm going to talk about the first and the third section. And then we'll go back to the second section on Thursday. If I can talk right. So that's where we'll go from on it. I do have all of 3, 4, and 5 lectures from both classes and collaborates out there in Blackboard now. And the new link got put out there for the 3 2451 classes. I don't have yesterday's collaborate session moved yet. We don't have this morning's lecture moved yet. And it'll be at least tomorrow before I do that. The last few days, if I thought my schedule was already busy, the last few days I just got busier. Sunday, before I drove back up here, I go to South Georgia on the weekend. I left church down there. My neighbor called and was needing a ride to the Augusta or Savannah airport. She thought she was trying to get to North Carolina because there was a family emergency there to Charlotte. And that I then questioned her on, I said, well, I was going up by the Atlanta airport. So she was trying to find a flight. And I said, well, I'm going by the Atlanta airport anyway, so you can ride me up there, no problem. And then she's looking and saying how long it's going to be or whatever. And that was going to be that evening, pretty much. She could get something. The first problem was it was at least an hour and a half away to the airport. You've got to build security in on in there and everything else. And I was going, well, how much is it going to cost you to plane flight anyway? And she gave me the figure on that. Well, it was high. And I went. Then I told her, I said, well, I could take you by Charlotte. So I said, I could still be in, should be able to be in about midnight or so, Sunday night. And so that's what I ended up doing. And I told her it would just take me a few more hours than my normal time. I went up to Charlotte, back down to here. And so I ended up doing that Sunday afternoon. I told her, I said, well, first I got to get lunch and go home, change clothes, and put packing bags in the car, which got us looking stuff. Because I'm obviously going to go on the weekend. I know I'm leaving on Sunday when I get in on Friday evening, so I'm always pretty well packed anyway. I just got to throw stuff back in the bag, go, and carry a couple of bags back up to the car. So then left on that, drove her up there. We made it by 6 o'clock. And she commented when we were getting close to the house there. And she said, well, it's about the same time as I would have, if I'd gotten an airplane flight, that I would have even been getting to the airport anyway, and still the flight, everything else is wrong. She said, this was faster. which is a lot of times what I notice. A couple of years ago, there were several of us from schools in Dayton, Ohio for training. And that they said they would pay for us to fly up there, or that was having us go up there, or that they would pay for driving too if we made a request to do that. Because I contacted them, I said, can I drive up there and see it? And they went, yeah. So another guy and they drove up there. We had one person that flew round trip up there, and one person that flew one way. They actually were going with somebody to go see something, to drop them off there, and they flew back. That's what it was. So they combined two trips. So we didn't lose one up there. And that the other guy and me had both thought about on it, getting to Dayton, Ohio, that we were going. If we flew, and we both driven the road pretty much cheaper. So if we flew up there, if you take any time to get to the airport, then the time you got to wait at the airport, then plane flight, and getting off the plane, and getting our luggage, because we would be there for a week. So obviously, security on wasn't going to probably do it for us. And then getting to the hotel from there, I said, it's going to take us just as long as if we just drove up there ourselves. So we drove up there. So then that was Sunday. So I got in at midnight Sunday night. So I didn't do anything there. Where normally, I'm usually in about 9 o'clock or so, 8, 9 o'clock. So I'll work on stuff on Sunday night. So, and sometimes before I leave, from out there too, all the stuff. Well, I did that day because I was ready to go. And I'd already spent several hours at church. But I was working to get Facebook accounts there. So we could stream on Facebook and quit a month ago. And it's not Facebook's fault, it's Google that's messed it up with Chrome, which is the only thing apparently you can stream on, so you have to use Chrome. What I was discovering. Hoping to do an edge might be involved. And Chrome has put in what they call a security feature that says you have to have a new driver, a modern driver for your camera that is made by, that's a driver made by the camera. And if that doesn't match, it won't let it work. Well, our problem is we've got a mixer box between the camera and the computer. And that's what the driver is on, because it doesn't need a driver for the camera, it's a driver for the box. And it's saying that doesn't match the camera. Well, I'm not real sure how it figures that one all out, but it blocks. All of a sudden, it started blocking it in December. And it took us a while to figure out what was wrong, because we thought some equipment had gone bad. And we figured out, wait a minute, equipment works fine. And then that it was something about Facebook or Chrome was wrong. And I figured it on out that it was wrong. It's been found a bunch of complaints up on the internet. And it actually had been done last August, but apparently for some reason, our copy of Chrome did not update until the end of December, or else somehow that they let it slide by until it was version 79. But you got to go back to 477. Well, Google does not put old versions of Chrome out there because they're adamant you're going to use the latest one. Well, there are some people that have got them out there. So I got a copy. Got 76, it worked. The only problem is Chrome detects that it's an old version and it immediately goes to update, which is fine until you shut Chrome down. So I can install it, run it, and it works fine. But then when you shut Chrome down, and obviously the computer only gets used once a week, basically, that the computer gets turned off, so that shuts Chrome down. Then when you go to start back up, you got a new version of Chrome because it's been sitting there updating it the whole time you're running it. You can't stop that. I've shut down the Chrome updater that was supposed to keep that from happening. It's not even running on the machine. Still is. So now I'm trying to figure out how to stop Chrome from updating while connected to the internet, because I've got to be connected to the internet stream. But I did manage to get church service on it. So I spent Saturday 3 hours on that. Now we're on Sunday morning for a little bit. You got to remove Chrome, install it, and then you're set to go. Which that's workable. That's not real good. And when I'm not there trying to explain to somebody else what they got to do, it's a whole other issue. So then Monday, I had the online collaborative sessions with all my classes already. I went to Rome yesterday afternoon after that. A student down there, to her, that had some problem in the class, couldn't get it going. And I went down there to meet her and help her. So I met her about 4:30, 4:45, somewhere at 4:45. Left at 6. And mind you, so at that point, I've been in school all day from 8 o'clock in the morning. I was either at school or on the road between campuses. And then I got back home about 7:30. So I had stopped in and grabbed a couple of things at Walmart on the way back in for a few minutes. But I hadn't had lunch all day or supper, so I had a break coming in there. Got in, and then I had 3 students that are taking an internship from me. They're doing some web pages for me. I wanted to meet, 2 of them wanted to meet with me last night on Skype. I had installed Skype on my machine. I said, we realized the road was going to close. I just installed it in the office. I had to try to get home. And it wasn't installed, so I installed it real quick. And they delayed a few minutes if something came up. And so then I met with them until 10 o'clock last night. Well, when I got through with that, I then got myself a little bit of supper. And went to bed, so I didn't work on anything last night either. So I haven't checked email really since about 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. There's a couple of messages that came in this morning, so I did look at 1 or 2 things this morning. I had to send out a couple of messages, so I had to go into email to do that, obviously. If I was going to send emails, you got to go into email. But I didn't go in to look at emails, and I didn't look backwards on it. Because there was a couple of things school had down from me and I didn't do. And then right then I saw 1 or 2 messages that came in this morning that I could, with what I saw in the subject line, I can answer that one real quickly, so I did. And that's all I've done on email since 7. Well, since yesterday afternoon, 3 o'clock. So probably it's going to be tomorrow if you send me any emails yesterday afternoon or today before I went to see them. Because then when I leave here, I got to go to Tennessee where I'm teaching class for Chat State, and I'll be home probably about 10:30. And when I get in from there, I'm probably going to be like 3 Tuesday nights, ready to call it a night. So, but tomorrow, hopefully I can work on grading some, so that's the other thing. Saturday, I did grade the online class of this section of this class, which has got 40 some students in it. I did grade their first assignment, module 2 assignment. And there was 48 submissions, I think, in there that I graded. I graded a couple of them, I think, writing or something. But I really graded on Saturday afternoon for about 5 hours. I did take a break in there to work on something else for a few minutes. But I was pretty much grading the whole 5 hours or answering emails. But I was answering those and stuff and all from students. Observation number 2 from that, and the first one is I'm going to get yours and the Walker class, the is up on the top of the list. So I should get y'all's grade. Hopefully I can get the grade tomorrow. I did real quick this morning, they posted my discussion, discussion that was due last Monday, and by mistake I did one for yesterday. I did it by mistake first, I read the wrong week to start off with. And I'm supposed to be posting a summary post or something for the students every week for all the students posting committed. And they watch us on that here at the school, online instructors. We get in trouble real quick on that. So I went to do that this morning, did that, just made a short little one. I didn't go through great discussions or anything. So I got those two things done. But on the assignment, when you did it, if you did not put your name on the desktop, okay, you need to get that done. Okay? I had a number of students in that other class that I returned the papers to, and I'm going to do the same thing to y'all. Okay? So if you're not sure, you'll find out. That I returned a number of them that their name was on the desktop, in which case, for that module, this is only for module 2, okay? In the future, there will be a substantial penalty for not having your name on the desktop. Follow that? On module 2, I returned those, and when I return them that need to be something fixed about them, you get a grade of 0. So they got a grade of 0 showing on them. But Blackboard says I have to put a grade on there for me to return it. Okay, for me to make any comments on it and return it. And so I put a 0, and pretty much a 0, almost in all cases when I look at the grade book and I see a 0, I know it's something I returned to the student to fix something. It's usually something really substantial, some reason that I'm going, you really need to fix this, and that I didn't just take off the money score right now. I'll do that depending on the cases, on some other cases. But most of the time, they're going to get the grade. Okay? But on that, I returned it, told them they had to put the name on the desktop and to fix it, resubmit it, which is literally the statement I put in. I'll tell you what's wrong and fix it, resubmit, whatever it is. Now, usually I'm not looking at anything else that is just something really large on me like that I've noticed, and then I'll even look at what else the assignment looks like. So if you got other things wrong, I'm not even noticing that at that point. I'll break all of that when I get it back of the minimum requirements. So I told them after I did it, I sent them a message and told them that they had through, I think I told them through today, either today or yesterday. Any of it is today anyway. If they had left their name off on future assignments, I really think I told them yesterday, but if they left it off on future assignments that they had already turned in, because after all, y'all have already done module 3 and module 4, I guess at this point, and module 5. Well, it was nothing in module 5, so it was no assignment now. But if you left it off on those, that you can still fix it and resubmit it, okay, before I grade. But if it wasn't when I was grade, it gets a big penalty. Now, 2, they got a chance to resubmit, and if you look at the syllabus, I told y'all, when I return papers like that, you've got 2 weeks to fix it. So hopefully I will grade y'all's papers tomorrow, and if there are any in this class or the longer classes, I'll do them both at the same time. Well, 13 to go between 2 classes. It's a lot less than 43. I will then, if I do find some that falls into, I'll let y'all know that you've got, I'll wait a couple of days before I grade the other. And I will also say I'm not telling you that I'm going to wait until after Friday if I get it tomorrow, before I go grading on the other, then you can resubmit. If you realize something's not correct on the assignment that you've turned in, you can still fix and resubmit it until I grade it. Okay? And if it's where you've resubmitted it, I'm not going on weight penalty on the resubmit. I'm going on weight penalty on the original submission. Unless you just turn in something with no work done on it, obviously trying to just stop the clock. You won't stop the clock on that one. I actually had one or two people in that first assignment, module 2, they hadn't done any work. I think both of them had actually put their name on it on the desktop, but they had obviously done nothing else in that one, if you remember. The only thing you had to do on the very first assignment was connect the console cable, and then it had a few things it wanted you to do, but didn't grade you on anything. So they just had you go in and type a few things in and try a couple of things. And so when I grade that one, I'm looking for the console cable and for your name on the desktop. And if the console cable is not there, well, then you didn't do what you were supposed to do, because if you don't have the console cable there, none of the rest of what they told you to do was going to work for you, because you weren't hooked up to the switch. So I know you didn't do anything. The others all have stuff they have you doing, and they grade you on, and that it automatically grades you on the rest of them, but the first one, it didn't even give you a grade on it. And so as long as you've done that, you get 100 on that assignment. Okay? So that's a quick and easy one for me to grade. Normally, I just got to open it and glance. But even the rest of them, if y'all have done what you should have done, they're pretty quick and simple too. It's just me open up and see, okay, you got 100 on it there, and I'll look at the desktop, the name on it, and glance real quick, but it's real quick and simple to grade. But then when somebody doesn't have everything done, it's got less than 100, I will tell you what are the things you had incorrect. Now, I'm getting that from the same place you can get it from. Use the check results button. If you don't have 100 on it, you don't know what you haven't done or that you did wrong. It won't tell you if you got it wrong or incorrect. It'll just tell you it's one of those. It's not. They're correct. Okay? Whether you didn't do it or if you got it incorrect, it's not telling you. It's just telling you it's not correct at all. Okay? But it will tell you what things are. You got to go back to the directions to figure out exactly what it is you should have done on it. But that's the same place I'm going to look to see what you did incorrectly too. So use that check results button. If you can't figure out what it is that you're getting wrong on it, write me it. You got to. I know I've done this, and I get these emails all the time. I know I've done it, and it won't give you credit for it. It won't give you a green check on whatever it is. And usually, almost always, it's something that you're just overlooking on it. But it's like where you're supposed to put in message of the day, and instead of putting, and usually they say to include a certain word in it, that you either let that word out, that's all it's looking for, or that instead of even looking at what they had said about it, you just put in the message of the day that showed you the check, which didn't work because that wasn't what they were looking for. And I've seen that a couple of times on a couple of other things in there too, that people were like passwords. Instead of using the password they told you to use, you use the one that they showed you in the chapter teaching you to, and that they've got a different password there for you to use. And I've caught that one a few times too. And I've had people write, oh, I just can't get it, send it to me, and when I look at it, I'll do it. And I put it in correctly with the correct password, it clicks it right off, so then I right back and go. You've got to use the right password. And that is looking carefully at those things. So just be careful on that. All right, with 6, you're looking at the data link layer. And with the data link layer, there's, I'm going to change the angle of the camera slightly. that there's several different, there's not a whole lot you have to remember about data. Okay? One big one that I would tell you to definitely remember on it is it's the only layer that has two sublayers. Okay? All of the other layers have no sublayers, but data link layer has two sublayers. One is the LLC, which is the higher sublayer. The other one's the max sublayer. And I have seen questions on tests asked which layer has sublayers, or asked about what the sublayers are on the data link layer. So be aware of the sublayers. I've seen that on tests and on certification exams. Okay? That's about the only thing I'm really seeing. That's, well, the devices you might see, but not much more, and about frames on it. You're not going to see a whole lot on this layer. Okay? But that's one of the big ones. Is remember, it's got two sublayers. Now, with those two sublayers, the LLC, since it's the higher one, the max, since it's the lower one. As you're looking at that whole model, all 7 layers, when you look at the physical layer, that is the one layer, as it's named, physical. It's the only one that is really concerned about how we get it out there physically onto the network. I'll follow on that. The top 5 are all concerned with software. Is more what they're concerned with. Software protocols, that stuff on it, but you're not concerned about how it's actually being sent. Right? You've got protocols in there of how it talks, the two ends talk to each other, but how it's actually going across is not there. So it's really the top 5 layers, software oriented, the bottom layers, physical type stuff too. The data link layer falls between the two. And so there's 2 sublayers that comes in significant there. The max sublayer is actually dealing with physical devices. Okay? The LLC is dealing more with the software and how are we preparing this data and everything above it. Okay, and that's the first place we really talk about how the data is prepared. Okay, it's down there on the bottom layer. We did say it was bits is all we looked at, but on this layer we're going to talk about frames on it. It's going to be set up in a frame. But with the max sublayer, the big one to remember off that one is that's where it's going to deal with MAC addresses. Now, MAC, M-A-C, is Media Access Control. Okay. A lot of people out there, if you were to talk to a lot of networking people, they probably couldn't tell you what MAC stands for. But do know what MAC stands for. Okay. And that's where the MAC addresses are played, which is a physical addresses, which is a unique address assigned to every network device out there. Okay. It's actually burned in at time of manufacture. It is 12 hexadecimal characters long, the MAC address. Verse 6 tells you what manufacturer made it. And the last 6 is just a serial number assigned by the manufacturer. So there's an organization out there in the world, I can't name the organization right now, that assigns out the manufacturer's numbers. Okay? It gives them a number. Here's your number you get to use for the first 6 hexadecimal points. The last 6, they assign to it as they make it. It's up to them how they decide to use them, but they can only use one address per device. So they follow on that. That gives every network interface device in the world a unique address. It is unchangeable as far as what's burned in the device. I'm going to tell you in a couple of minutes that you can actually get around it in a couple of cases and make it look like something else. But the actual real address in there is burned in, was put in wrong at the time of manufacture. And you can look on any device that connects to the internet. Sometimes you won't find it. But on most of them, there's a sticker on the back or something that's going to tell you what the MAC address is for. And so like each of these computers, these now probably should all have integrated network interface cards in them that's been gave to the motherboard. And so the computer is going to be assigned a MAC address that was assigned to that motherboard. You might have to open the computer up and look on the motherboard, but it would at least be on the motherboard a sticker that tells you what its MAC address is. Well, we used to have separate coding cards for it, which were really NICs network interface cards, because they were a separate part you used. They had it on there. Your phone has got a MAC address on it. Most of the time, I have found that it is hidden behind your battery in your phone. They just take the battery out and look. There's a little sticker with a serial number and the MAC address on it. That's one of the harder ones usually to find. PCs, a lot of the time, it will actually be a sticker on the outside of it. Although in some cases, and we're going to roll across the back there, I'm inclined to think they've got it on the motherboard inside the machine, because I don't see a sticker on the back there. Okay. Your wireless devices, you should find a sticker on the back of them, of your wireless access points that gives you the MAC address and the serial number. A lot of times that the MAC address will be expressed as 2 hex decimal numbers, -2-2-2. Okay. Sometimes it's just as one big set number, 12 digits long. They have started a little bit recently going back and reusing some old numbers because stuff that was built in the early 90s, those MAC addresses, they can actually use them because they're not using those devices anymore. Okay? I don't think y'all are going to want to be hooking up a 300K, not 300K, but 300 meg speed, not meg, but 300 high speed connections. Okay? That you don't want anything running that stuff. Okay? You may still use, but there are people still using the 56K dial-up modems. So those are still being used. The stuff that's slower than that, no. You're not going to find it being used there. So, and that's all either ended up in museums, or it's in the landfill, or is sitting there stacked at somebody's place and needs something done with it, or just holding on to it to see what happens with it. Okay, so it's not on the network anymore, so it doesn't make any difference. So the MAC address is burned in at time manufacturing. Now, the exception, 2 exceptions on that one, and it's both on routers. Okay. The first one I'm going to tell you about is that with the full long routers, which, well, we don't have any router up there, but look more like the box over there, about all the holes in them, with those size things. But you've got switches and any bring router over there. I don't see anywhere. But we've not taught some of this in here. So with the router, because remember, it's your connection between the internet and your network in your organization, and then between subnets and everything else. You'll have stuff of the routers communicating with routers that are using MAC addresses in there as part of their addressing. That's built in static tables and everything else in there. And so if one of your routers fails, that then you go to replace that router. You buy the same router. It's got a different MAC address. You would have to go and change in all of the equipment running your network. Everywhere it referred to that MAC address, to the new MAC address, or something, or does everybody follow on that part? So what they have allowed to be done on the routers, on the high-end routers, is for you to actually go in and put in a different MAC address for it that it uses. Now, it does not replace the burned-in one. They're going to follow follow that? So the burned in one's still in there. It's just not me using it now because it's going to use this other one that it uses instead. Okay? That means then you can replace that router and put that address into it, told it this is the address you're really going to adhere to as on the network. And everything on the network still works fine when you've got that router replaced. Because everything else thinks, okay, it's there. And it's the address I'm looking for, so everything's happy. You didn't have to go through and modify everything on your network. Does everybody follow that? So that will happen. Okay? And you know you don't have two of the same MAC addresses out there anywhere on any network still, because guess what? The old one that has the same MAC address as you now said that new one is using, you know it's not on any network because it's busted and you got to sit and buy you or you used to throw it in the trash. Okay? And that it's not going to be on anybody's network anywhere because it just don't work. So you can do that. Okay? You're still following the rules of the world. Okay? Second instance, I can shoot ahead. So let's see if we had a home Firefox, but we don't have that in here either. And I've got a bunch of them sitting over there. But your little home networking router, it can be changed in there also. You can tell it to use a different address. Two reasons to do that one. Okay. Well, really one reason is guess one reason. Not really two. But so you can actually change it in there. Except in there it's easy. On the big routers, you got to go into configuration like I've already been into at this point, and it's a configure command that you can actually check the MAC address. You got to get it there to do. On the little small ones, like you buy at Walmart or whatever, those you go into there. It's got a little menu for you to change settings in it. If y'all haven't been into that before, and that it lets you put in addressing for it, an IP address for it, your SSID, and assuming it's a wireless one, etc. Well, there's also in there where it gives you an option that you can tell it, take the MAC address, use the MAC address when you turn it on, grab that MAC address from the device that's hooked to it, and use that MAC address. Okay. Here's the reason for that. And it doesn't require any knowing what the MAC address is, or you really don't have to know the other device's MAC address. In that case, it goes and grabs the only device that's hooked to it, grabs its MAC address and says, I'm going to do that MAC address. Here's the reason for doing that. A lot of your ISPs, particularly the cable one, almost all the cable ones, some of the DSL also, I know Regal Telephone does on their DSL the same way. Some of the DSL does not, but they go with, it matches back to your phone number and stuff on it. Remember with DSL, you get using the phone line, so they can match it off that. But with cable, they don't have that. So their way of figuring out, are you allowed to actually be sending stuff across the network if you're plugged in? Because that outlet's going to be live. The question is, can you actually use it and go out on the internet? Okay? Is they've got a table built of all of the MAC addresses, and they just do one MAC address per location that is acceptable in their network. I mean, so it's a list of the MAC address for each customer. Okay. What happens is, and it's less of it now, because now with the newer devices, you're less likely to do it. But what would happen was they'd come set up your cable connection, modem in and get it all set up. Remember, it's got to have the MAC address to go from. And what it would grab is the computer you had plugged in there at the house that you were sending a process on. It grabbed the MAC address from that PC and used it. Because they really don't want to use the MAC address. Particularly didn't want to really use off the boxes because they replaced the boxes occasionally. And they fail and so they grabbed that MAC address. Well, that was nice and good until you went to use a second device. You plugged it in. It was the other one was the recognized MAC address. The one you just plugged in is not, and that box sitting there doesn't do anything about the MAC address. And so it's sent out, and all of a sudden it's going, wait a minute, reader, this box is not permitted MAC address. And so it wouldn't let anything go out. And if you just put that one original machine plugged in, everything worked fine. You plug in some other machines, and everything went crazy and didn't work. Well, what that option that it gave an option of effectively was using the MAC address that your provider knew, moved it onto your little router switch box there. They put it on there at that point. Now, anything that was plugged in through it, including wireless going through, was a wireless box. Now, when it sends it out and bumps it to your modem, they all go, okay, that's okay, because the MAC address I'm seeing it come from is perfectly fine. Because it's showing the address I know is good. And so you could actually get that router box to look like a PC, and that wasn't any problem. Because it was purely inside your small little network right there. And the two boxes knew. The router box knew it was things like that other, so they can talk on away. Nowadays, you really don't have that problem anymore because now your modem boxes that you get don't just have the one line coming out of them, that you had to get a switch to go on it to be able to run more than one device off of it. They typically are switches also with 4 LAN ports on them, plug stuff into. They also are wireless on the new ones you get now. Y'all got the new modem box in the last year or two. It comes with wireless built in it for you. So guess what? That box has got everything taken care of, so you don't have to worry about that issue anymore on that. But that was the 2 places that you could actually change what the MAC address looked like. But think back to the rule I said in the first place. That's what you got to remember. Is the MAC address that's burned in at time of manufacture cannot be changed. Okay? Although you can emulate it to look like a different MAC address, the burned in one is still the burned in one. So if you reset that box, guess what? It's back to that burned in address it's using. Because that's the one that is. Does everybody follow on that? There is an exception to it. But when you're doing the test, unless it says something about exception on it or whatever, burned in one is burned in and cannot be changed. Everybody got that part? Now, on the Mac layer also, it's going to build the frame. Actually, on the whole data layer, it's going to build the frame. It's going to build part of it as part of WMC, which is electrical link control, and it does more playing with that stuff on it, and then the Mac somewhere. You're going to work with frames on this layer. With that frame, it encapsulates the packet, which is what came down from above. Okay? Your data's in that packet. And as we go on up the layers, we're going to see how it keeps encapsulating it. We're going to end up over data when we get high enough up there. Okay? It's encapsulating, so it's putting it inside of it. Just like we get a capsule of medicine, it's just a little wraparound piece on it, and all the little pieces of medicine are held inside of it. So you encapsulate the medicine, that little piece on the whole time. It's actually made out of animal bone. learned that when I was teaching a class a few years ago in Augusta, Georgia, and I had a student come in that they had to do papers on something for the class, and I don't know how it was, but he actually worked for a place where they ground up foam and would make those capsules out on. Never would have realized it was anything seemed on plastic type stuff. That's just actual. So it's encapsulated in there. Outside of it, we're going to add on the front of it, we're going to put a header. So the frame is going to have a header, it's going to have the data, which actually is the encapsulated packet. And it's going to have a trailer. There are those three terms. The header. Okay. On the header, it's going to have a start frame piece right there. That's going to be just a signal that goes on the front of it. A couple of bits. I don't know if it's a whole byte or not, but it's going to be a piece right there on the front. That's your start frame. It says, here comes the frame. Okay? Sort of like a train is the engine of the train. Marking, here's the train coming. Or in a car, that's the headlights. Everybody follow on that? You know, here comes a car, right? Then there's the data. But actually in that front part there, also it's got the MAC addresses. So it's going to tell what's the MAC address of the machine it came from and what MAC address of the next machine it's going to. Now, that is not where it really started from and really to. That's in the middle here from this device that we're sending it from right now to the next device right there. Y'all follow on that? MAC addresses are going to tell us those immediate stops. Remember my post office example on the layers? This is just like when you go to the post office and you give them a package to mail. And you ever notice there's usually behind them several different bins, maybe cartons or maybe boxes they've got sitting back there, but they got several. Well, they'll put it in one of those bin cartons or boxes, okay? Whichever one's marked for the direction that one should go. Okay? That's got that MAC address on that bin or the card. It's the same as we're talking about MAC addressing. Okay? That just tells us which is the next post office it goes to from this one. And then there it's going to change card or bin it's in to wherever it goes next, and so on. And they'll know also looking at that box it was in when it gets there, where did it come from? It came from this previous post office or distribution center. But that part right there doesn't tell us about where did it originally get mailed from or where is it ultimately going to. You got to look at the individual package to see that. So everybody follow on that? So on the MAC address. When we get the IP addresses on the next layer, which we'll get into next week on, then we'll be looking at where did it really start from and where is it really going to, like you wrote on your envelope, the address of where it really goes to and the return address of where did it really come from. Okay. So it's going to have MAC addresses. It's also going to have a control byte there. We're not going to worry about that one. That's just some stuff that sticks on there that tells it how to work with that frame. And it's also going to have a type byte that tells it what type of frame is this. The number of type frames it can be, but you're not really worried about that one here. Okay? It's got a start, and it's got the two addresses. That's what you're primarily worried about in the header. Then it's got the data, which is actually the encapsulated packet. And then behind it, it's going to have a little byte there that's going to be used to determine it all arrived. I'll work right on for that. But what it's going to do is when it goes to send it, as it creates that frame, puts it together, it's going to do a calculation on it as it finishes putting it together. And do a calculation, come up with some magic number based on what all was in there. It's sort of like adding up everything, the value of everything in there, you get a number, and just keep the last two numbers of it or whatever, stick it in the frame in that spot. when it gets to the other end, before it takes it apart, it's going to do the same calculation again. And then see, does the number it just calculated match the number that's in there? If they match, you're fairly reliable that everything got there in that frame. Now, that doesn't mean it's an absolute certainty, but there's pretty good reliability you got there for it to come up with the same number. Right? If it doesn't match, you know it didn't all get there, or it got there messed up. So in that case, you don't want to use that frame. So we follow on that. It's gonna, the machine's going to request the frame be reset because it knows what I just got is garbage because it didn't match on that. The other one is it also has on there a trailer, little trailer bit on it, or actually not trailer, but a stop bit on it. And so it's going to have a couple of bits there that marks the end of it. In the old days, that was like the caboose on the train. Nowadays, since we don't have cabooses on trains anymore, it's a little red light on the back of the train that they put there marking the last car, or it's the lights on the back of your car versus the headlights on your car. The headlights mark the start of your car, your tail lights mark the end of your car, right? Because if you're sitting there in the dark waiting to turn, and you see the tail lights on that car that you had seen coming with the headlights, or you see the tail lights go by you, you know the car has gone on by and you can turn, correct? That it's not there anymore. If you don't see the tail lights go by, then your guess is, but you did see the headlights, is that car has stopped in front of you, right? Or else they got burned out tail lights. It doesn't do you much good. And I had one of those on the road Sunday night. Truck that didn't have tail lights on. They had brake lights, but he didn't have any tail lights. And it was dark out there. When he hit the brakes, you saw them, but until he hit the brakes, you didn't see them ahead of you. And I'm going, you're asking for an accident. So that's your frames. So everybody can see how they're set up. So there's a start marker, there's a stop marker. Because it's got to know where does your frame start and where do they stop. When you got all of the stuff traveling across the network, well, how do we know here's the start of the frame and here's the stop, the end of the frame, the stop point on it. So that it marks those markers on it, so that we know where one stop starts and where one stops. Okay? So that's your frames. We've talked about the addressing on the MAC addresses. We've talked about the two layers. And I think that's it that I was going to talk about. That's the first and the third parts of the module. There's only 3 parts on this module. So I'll talk about the first one and I'll talk about the third. All right. Pretty sure that's got to be all. Around the second one that we'll talk about on Thursday will be the topologies. That's how it's your network set out. We'll talk about logical topology versus physical topology and different topologies. So that's the primary thing we'll talk about today on Thursday. So I say this chapter doesn't have quite as much stuff as your other chapter. But we still run close to an hour right now. It's 1:45. So today I'm going to let y'all go early. Thursday I'll probably let you go early too. That shouldn't take us real long. Unless there's complaints from you. Because I can find something to talk about for the next 30 minutes. That's what y'all need. Okay. So are there any questions on the stuff? Remember, your next test is after module 7. Okay. So we're on 6 this week, so that means your next test will be next week. However, you don't want to do it Monday. You want to wait until we have class at least Tuesday. Next Thursday, actually, I won't be having class because I've got to take a class from the Kiwanis on doing websites for them to start training people how to do websites their way. And their training class is something like noon to 2:15 or something, noon to 2. Maybe it's noon to 1:30. I think it's noon to 1:30, either next Thursday or the following Thursday. That's for the weird, they gave 2 different times to do it. The only difference is which Thursday is it on. It's the same time. Normally when you set things up like that, you set up one of them at one time and the other one at a different time of the day. So if people can't do it at this time of the day, that hopefully they can do it at the other time, like do one at noonish like they've done, and then do the other one in the early evening or something. No, they did them both at the same time on the same day of the week. Now, in January, they handed out there also, but I missed finding out about when it was then. They had it on 2 Fridays like at the same time. So I'm going to have to miss class on it. However, for that morning, I'm going to stream in your class when I go to do the recording of it. Instead of recording it at their class that morning, I'm going to do it. Well, I'm doing it collaborative. I'm going to do it through your class. And that means if y'all want to watch it that morning, you may have class or something else where you can't watch it. It's not a problem. But if you do want to watch live that day, you can actually watch me do it live that morning. Okay? Or you can watch the recording later. Okay? On it, or if you understand the stuff there, you don't have to watch the recordings either. But I am going to do that or do, like right now, where I'm recording now, I'm recording into your class. When I go to, when I did this morning, I did theirs. And then I transfer those. I download it, I put it to YouTube, I upload it all 3 sections. But in that case, then when I do that one, I'm actually going to set it another way. Then I'm going to go into your class to do the collaborate so that y'all, if y'all want to watch it live, you can on it that morning. Okay. And that'll be immediate for you. Or if you want to watch the recording, then the recording will be there as soon as that class ends. That if you wanted to watch it this time that afternoon, you can sit there and watch the recording at this time period in the afternoon. The following Thursday, I won't be here either because I'm going to Kiwanis District meeting in Tennessee. That's on. Starts on that Thursday afternoon later, but the guy I go with, he's got to be there for a meeting earlier that day. So we're going on up to Thursday, and then we do all day Friday and Saturday morning. Go for Friday, and then Saturday mornings again are going to go up on Thursday sometime. I'm not sure what time we're reading yet, but I know he wants to head on out and look for the world sometime by that afternoon because he's got a meeting either late that afternoon or in the evening. So he wants to get on it at the end. If I go with him, I get to split the cost on gas and also that I'll share with him up there. So that's my cost on my for me going to the meeting. But I'll have to take out the price. But I really would need to head on out on Thursday anyway. But if I was going by myself, I'd wait until after this class to go up there. But this is where to do on one. I'll choose. I'll be online once I get there because we'll get to the hotel and I'll go get online and work on class stuff this the day and stuff and be online some on Friday. It's really my stuff that start lunchtime Friday or something. So that's going to happen on the next 2 weeks. And actually, following Thursday, I'll be here. Following Thursday, you don't want to school. That first Thursday in March is Thursday and Friday. Students are out. We got there to all packages to go wrong for meetings. Not wrong, but calculating for meetings and those 2 days. Tuesday or Thursday. Because I'll be in Cisco training and conference Tuesday in North Carolina, and then the rest of that week I'm in a general computer instructors conference up there in North Carolina. For the rest of that, it's all conference training, all of that week. And that's in Pinehurst, North Carolina, which is out over on 95. If you go to golf camps, it's sort of quite a big golf tournament every year. So we're having it there. So that's Monday. I'll spend driving over there. Although I may not be leaving until after lunch. I'd really rather get ready. So that's going to be like a 9-hour drive. So I'll use up my Monday, and then Friday we'll have conference Friday morning till lunchtime, and then I'll drive back after that. So I'll put it in late that Friday. So it's not a big for me that week. And I'll be in meeting sessions all day Tuesday, and then actually we got a dinner session that night. I think supper, but hold stuff to them. And Wednesday, and meetings all day. And then Thursday, same thing. And then either Wednesday or Thursday night, it's a formal dinner again where they'll be giving us some stuff that as part of the conference of dinner for us, which usually feels good. That's usually a more enjoyable thing on it, but we're still all there with the conference, and so we're still talking. And even that's usually Wednesday night. Because then Thursday night is dinner on our own. But usually I go out with several of the other Cisco people in North Carolina that are above us, a higher level academy, and usually end up going to supper with them. So, and this is that, but I'll talk Cisco or something else too. So even the evening, it still works. I know that's on Thursday. The last 2 years I've gone with that group. I get along pretty good with them. They usually invite me to go with them wherever they're going that night. It's a big someplace over nice or something. We had Mexican last year, I guess the year before, we ate at Applebee's or something, and we were actually in a formal meeting back in Applebee's or my credit card number. So it was a security. We had a meeting on teaching security at the colleges, and my credit card number got stolen at the payment by the airline. Because the next morning when I left, started back after lunch the next day, I got a call from Discovery, which is what I put it on, and they went, "There's a problem with your Discover card. We need to confirm that you bought things you did." And they said, "You paid for a hotel room this morning, you got a hotel for us in North Carolina." I said, "Yep, that's me." And they said, "You paid for supper last night at Applebee's." One Applebee's is one of those. And I said, "Yep, that's me." And they said that you just ordered 4 wheels for a tractor trailer in California an hour and a half ago. I said, "Nope, that's not me." "And you ordered something else for a tractor trailer." At that point, I went, "No, that's not me." And they said, "We didn't think it's you either." So actually, those charges didn't go through, that they've been blocked, but that's what the signal sent us that your card had gotten, remember, had been stolen. So they said, "We killed your card on." I said, "Well, I can tell you where the card number got stolen." I said, "I can't tell you who stole it." But I said, because when you paid there, you had to give them the card, and they took it back, and it took them forever to come back to the table with our cards. People that had paid cash got their money right back. And they were going ahead and leaving, and the rest of us that paid by card kept sitting there. And we started making little comments to each other about, this is sure looking like they're stealing your credit card number. And we just jokingly made it to each other, because I say it was actually a security meeting, which was an irony in the whole thing. And but then they did come back out, and I said, "I don't know if the waitress knew or had anything to do with it, But I said, somebody in there in the payment process, I said, she may not have known anything about what happened. You know, because more than likely, when she took the card and went back to the back, and gave him the card, she gave it to somebody else that bring it up on the register back there. And so it could have been, I said, but somebody in that restaurant's the one that got the card. Turned out nobody else's card ever got stolen in there, because I immediately then stopped and sent an email to the ones that had been there with me that I knew their emails off. Sent an email to them and said, you better watch your credit card if you used it last time. My number got stolen and used in California. And Discover completely covered on it. Other than the fact I didn't have no Discover card on me on the road. That was the only problem. I told them what I was doing, and they said, are you going to be at a location tonight? Because we can get you another card overnight. If you can tell us where you're staying tonight, we can have you a card sent overnight to you tonight and have it there first thing in the morning for you. And I went, no, that wasn't a problem. I said, that won't work anyway because I'm heading home. So they just mailed it to me on it. But, and there's been a couple of times when I've been stolen. And each time I've been able to tell them where it got stolen. But I said, I was quite confident. They said, well, that was the first one they were got bagged on them anyway, which I happened to purchase. But I said, if y'all will go to there, y'all can find out who stole it. But I said, you can get there, they can tell you who the waitress was that waited at that table that this got run up on. You can figure out who did it. I said, I'm not accusing the waitress at all. I said, more than likely, she had nothing to do with it. So whoever was either bringing it up or else somebody else was getting it pushed back there. But somebody was going to know what happened. I don't know if they ever did, or a caught person or whatever, but I can tell you that one. Because I had someone one other time when I was going through Tennessee. I was going to back to Arkansas, and the next day I went to use it. And she got turned down, and they contacted me, and I went, what? They told me, I said, okay, I can, and they told me what they had, and when stuff popped up on it. And I went, okay, I can tell you where that number got stolen. I tried to watch them on it now. They said it was at one of the pay-at pumps, and I couldn't, and they could tell obviously on there exactly where it was, because I said it was where I paid at the pump there. That number got stolen. But they said I stole it. It's after that when stuff popped up on it. That's happened to me before. And I had it happen in South Carolina one time to me too. And I try to watch on them. A lot of times I do sort of pull on the scanner on those to see if it's loose, which is what they say will work, or if it looks odd. I never noticed one, and I didn't notice it in either of those places, but obviously it picked up my number somehow. Somebody picked up my number off of it there. But Discover fully backed me out each time, and there were no problems on it. So, and that's one reason I need my Discover card as much as I do. So it does happen, but it was just ironic, that one, because the others at the table with me reminded me that last year when I was there. They said, all right, you had your number stolen anymore? And that it was just so ironic to us that it was a cybersecurity meeting, but somebody stole the number on it. And that we had all made comments about it. You know, that it was just how long it had taken back there. And the other part was it was changed to the cash customers back out. They had gone ahead and started wandering off. And so it was just a few of us sitting there at the table still. They had used the credit card on it. And it may be that they thought that whoever was doing it got my card versus those other cards for whatever reason when they looked at it, that they thought mine would be an easier one to steal on it. But I don't know what brand the others were using or anything. They got mine. So go on and go. That's it. And have a good afternoon. And there's no speaker right here.
So you're gonna post an announcement whenever you're not gonna be here.
So I'll post an announcement when I'm gonna be here too. Okay? But just to go ahead and give y'all a heads up right here. Next Thursday, as far as I know, unless something changes, there's always a chance something can change from that. I'm not gonna be here in 2 weeks after that. And then actually all of this the next 2 Thursdays. Because the school will be closed for one of them, and then I'll be gone on another one. But y'all will still have to study the material and stuff, but I'll get the collaborate session recordings out there quickly running off the documents.